Hello and welcome to this video that kind of explains the source chart. So this is designed for the English 111 classes at Shaw University, and this is just a tool to help you work on your research paper that you were working on for the class. So before we can get to the source chart, you should have picked a topic per the directions of your instructor, and again, you're arguing a point. So you need to have basically generally pick a controversial topic and then pick one side of the argument or a side of the argument, and you're trying to prove that point using research. Okay, this assignment here is designed to help you after you've done your research and found some sources, how you can actually use those sources in writing your paper. So really, before you can even start this assignment, you really should have a subject that you're writing on, and you should have found 3 credible sources that back up your point that you're trying to make. So again, you need to have the 3 sources figured out, and you need to have what you're talking about, the point of your paper is before you can really do this assignment. Okay, so this is we have a couple of tools here. This is just the assignment you're going to fill out, but we have a helper. Let's take a look at the kind of more of the directions. So oops, there it is. Okay, so these are the instructions. So it's the same thing, except for we kind of give examples of how to do it. So the source chart is basically what you're going to do is, like I said, you need to have found 3 sources. So let's say this is one of the sources right here. Okay, so this needs to be put in here using the proper MLA formatting. And again, your teacher will give you more information on how to do that. So this is a source that you should have already found before you started the source chart. Okay, that again backs up. There's some claim you're making, and then this article then backs up your claim. Okay, now the next question is, how does this source relate to your argument? Okay, and so the explanation is, okay, so state how this source stands in relationship to your position, or your relation to your position. So if you're trying to say, and then, for example, in this article, the author provides data that supports whatever argument you're making. Okay, does it confirm or challenge your stance? So if let's say you're trying to say that the argument is that the world is flat and not round. Okay, and then all you can find as far as credible sources is that the world is round. So all you're going to do is like, man, everything is challenging my stance. Well, maybe you've taken the wrong stance. Just something to think about that, okay? But it's always good to look at things from different perspectives. Okay, so again, for this part, so again, you're just going to kind of say, hey, in this article, this is how it relates to the point that I'm trying to make. It's providing information that backs up this point, or it challenges this point that I'm going to be able to counter later on. Okay, I'll show you an example of this in just a minute. Okay, the next thing you're going to do is write a summary sentence, or basically you're just summarizing what the article is about. Okay, in this case, so here's the article attached to Technologies Paying a price. Okay, so basically they're just saying in the New York Times article attached to Technology Paying a Price, Matt Reichel, or whatever you pronounce his name, describes several negative effects of the constant use of technology. So this is the kind of like summarizing what the article is saying. It's like, this is the point he's trying to make. Okay, so this is just the first part here. So the first part is we're just recognizing the source. We're kind of saying, hey, how does this relate to my argument? And then we're kind of summarizing what the article says. Now, once we've done that, we need to find 2 quotes, quote 1 and quote 2. 2 specific quotes, okay, that are word for word from the article or the source that you're using, that you're going to be able to use in your research paper. So in this case, this is the quote that was found, okay? And this is a quote that was found from that article. So all you're going to do is find 2 quotes from your article, and you're going to copy them word for word and put them in quotation marks. This is the quote. Now this quote should be important to back up the information that you're trying to provide, right? It's trying to back up the point you're trying to make. Again, the world is round, okay? And here's, this article, here's a direct quote that says this particular study has shown, and here's the evidence, or whatever, okay? Then once you have found a quote, then we're going to practice 2 ways that you can integrate that into your paper. One of them is to be able to paraphrase, okay? So to paraphrase, you're basically taking what has been said here and kind of putting it in your own words, okay? So basically you read this information like, okay, what is it really trying to say? And then you would say, okay, basically in your own words, you can say, you wouldn't say in my own words because you're writing this in third person, but in your own words, you just kind of say what it was, but you still have to show the citation of where you got it from. Now, again, if you look at the source, okay, so we know who the author is, so it's the source is going to be the last name of. That's how we're going to know which source we're referring to. Because if you're going to quote something in a paper, it needs to be able to be found here. And this information here, the sources you're going to be using are going to be found on your works cited page of your argument paper. So you need to make sure that they match. So if you have something on your works cited paper, it needs to be also in your paper. Or if you're going to quote something or reference something in your paper, it needs to be on the works cited page. Okay, so that's how you paraphrase it. You just put it in your own words, okay? Another way you could do it is that you actually take the whole direct quote. Okay, so this whole quote right here, boom. That's the same exact quote right here. Okay, and one way that we're doing this is that we have established where this quote is coming from, because we're not plagiarizing this, because we're not saying that you as the writer of the paper is writing this. Okay, you're copying and pasting this, and it's okay to copy and paste as long as you say where you got it from. In this case, you say you got it from Matt Reichel, okay, and we know that there he is, okay? So that's an exact quote, okay? And then you would find another quote and do the same thing. You paraphrase it. Okay, well, I'll show you an example of whatever. So you paraphrase it, whatever. Okay, so now let's go to the actual assignment that kind of gives you more information. So let's go to this. So here's your source chart template. So this is actually what you're going to fill out, okay? And you'll notice that it's blank, okay? And it's like, okay, so you haven't done anything here yet. So you have to fill out every single one of these sections and write a paragraph. Well, I've done that and you're going to do that 3 times because you're going to have 3 different sources, okay? So they're going to do this once, twice, and then 3 times. Okay, so I've actually done an example here for source chart 2, okay, the second part. And then you do it again for, part 3 for the third source, okay? So just to show you kind of how it's done. So in this particular case, let's look at how this was done. So here's the source, okay? So there was no author. So in this case, we're using the title of the article, which is called Save the Bees, okay? Save the Bees. So again, if you don't have the name of the author, then you use the name of the article, okay? And then how does this sort of relate to the argument? Okay, so then it's like, well, like the article gives evidence to back up my stance that more laws need to be put into place that protects the environment, especially about any practices that have a negative impact on the bee population. So their point is that there needs to be more laws that support environmental changes or whatever to keep the bee population from dying out. Okay, so they're basically saying this source backs up. So this is the point they're trying to make, and this source backs it up. Okay, and then they summarize it. Okay, well, Sarah, they're saying according to the webpage, according to this article, Save the Bees, Greenpeace describes why it's vital for the bees to be saved and how they have an impact on humans. So again, you're just summarizing what this article says, and then we found 2 quotes. So there's quote 1 here, and again, these are direct quotes from this source, direct quotes from the source. So once we have this first quote here, then we're going to have to paraphrase it. So one way to paraphrase it in your own words is, okay, most of the nutrition that humans take in is pollinated by bees. Okay, that's basically summarizing this information here. But again, if we're going to take that information, it's like, well, how do you know this? How do you know that most of the nutrition? You have to paraphrase it, including the source. Okay, and please note how this is done. Okay, so here is your words, your own words. You're just paraphrasing what they're saying in the article, but then you have open parentheses, and then you put the name of the article, or if you just had the last name of the of the author, you put it there. But because it's an article, it's in you wouldn't have the quotation marks, and then the close quotation marks, and then the period. Okay, that's super important. Or another way you could do it is use the quote with proper citation. So again, this is where this is the exact quote. Okay, so again, that exact quote is right there. but we introduce where we got it from. The article Save the Bees states, okay, so we are telling, hey, yes, we copied and pasted this, but this is where we got it from. And again, this Save the Bees matches the name of the source that we have on our Works Cited page, okay? And then we did that again with quote 2, where there's a direct quote, and then they paraphrased it, and then they quoted it. Then the next thing you get to do, and this is going to save your life, okay? Then they actually wrote a paragraph using the information they found. So in this case, they're going to be like, they're introducing the concept. Bees are important to the human population and its food production, and so it is vital to save the bees. So this is just the writer making a statement, okay? And then they have to back it up with evidence. Okay, the article Save the Bees states, oh, wait a minute, where did we see that? Oh, it is right there. Okay, boom. So this right here, okay, since we quoted that, we just took this and we put it into our paper, okay? Boom. All right. Then we make a connection. So this shows how the crops are pollinated by bees, which then shows that without the bees, humans are without, anyway. So we make a connection, okay? Now, so we've made a statement, we backed it up with evidence, okay? Then we make a connection between what's been said and our point that we're trying to make. And now let's have another quote, okay? Now this one, the second quote, we're actually going to use a paraphrase. So in this case, we will say, so we're making the claim again, the honeybee population has been decreasing significantly over time. Well, how do we know that, okay? Well, then in this case, this right here that we've already written is the same thing as this right here. And again, notice that we have where it came from because we're paraphrasing it, and so we're stating where it came from. And then we kind of have a concluding sentence, with such a dwindling number of honeybees available, few people can be fed. So here's the cool part. Once you've written this paragraph, you now understand how you have found a source, you have connected it to the point that you're trying to make, okay? You found a couple of quotes, and you found out I can either paraphrase a quote or I can quote it directly, making sure that you know exactly, how to make sure you're using proper in-text citations, and I'm going to show you something about that in just a second, so hang on, that's exciting. And then it shows you kind of basically an idea of how you can create a paragraph. Now, guess what? This paragraph is something you can actually use in your argument paper. You are creating work. You are creating stuff that you can use later. Now, you may want to adjust it as the paper goes to connect with your whole ideas, but you're basically writing a bunch of your argument paper right now. So now, when it comes to the questions on like, how do I quote stuff? I mean, how do I correctly do in-text citations? Because that's been a big challenge for a lot of people for a lot of years. Okay, so on this little helpful sheet that you have, if you go right here on how to do quotations and you click, it says control click. If you click on that, it brings you to this page right here, and it shows you how to do different types of in-text citations, okay? And more than likely your instructor will give you additional training and teaching, but it shows you, this is a reference page on how to do it any number of ways. So you have sources, okay? So, but again, to reinforce a certain super important concept, let me get back to this, boom. If you are going to quote something, okay, if you're going to take information from a source, you have to say where that information came from, and it should match what you have here. Because again, on your works cited page, you're going to have a list of the sources that you're quoting, and anything that you've borrowed or taken from that source needs to be indicated in your paper, just like we did here. So in here, we talk about we introduced it here, Save the Bees, and then here's a different way that we can do the in-text citation where we have the information at the end. So hopefully by watching this video, it makes it a lot less intimidating, and hopefully you can see how valuable this is, how it's going to be able to help you write your research paper. All right, there you go.